Hello again. This is part 3. I just drove through a little rain shower, but it's stopped now, but it means that the sky is nice and clear and we've got a good view. So where am I? I'm on the road between Cresseron and Plumetot. So I'm basically between Juno and Sword Beaches. Juno Beach begins over there. That's the church over there at Santo Bansamer. Or is that Santo Bansamer? That's Bernier. So one of the two. That's beginning of Juno Beach. Sword Beach is back that way. On the far horizon there, that's the coast that goes up towards Le Havre. So that's the British Airborne Bridge over there. And then we have open fields in front of us. And I found this location a few years ago because this is a road that you don't normally take. You'd have to be kind of particularly going towards Cresseron or Plumetot. Again, it's not the route the tourists usually use. And I found this little monument here. I may have been with Colin. I may not have been. So it's really about various things, this monument. So it's honor of the 22nd Dragoons. So that is a British DD unit coming ashore on the beaches. So you can see on the map here. So there's Juno Beach. So Courseulles, Bernier, Saint-Aubin. And this barbed wire kind of representing the German defense. Then you go along the coast. And then you have Lyon-sur-Mer, La Brèche, Ouistreham. So that's Sword Beach. And then it's showing us here that is north that way, and it says we have been given the gates of liberty and peace, 1944 to 2004 when this monument was set up. Then Cresseron is kind of behind me, and Plumetot is where you see the aircraft there. There was an airfield here after war. You talked about ALGs yesterday. And over on the right you have the Orne and River and Canal. So that is in honor of the airfield and the 22nd Dragoons who came ashore. But the reason I like this location is it gives you a good sense of this gap between the two landing beaches of, as I say, Juno and Sword. And not so much the gap down there on the beach bit, it's the gap behind us. Big swathes of open country. And what is open country useful for? Armored vehicles. And one of the threats to the British end of the beaches, the British and Canadian end, is the potential arrival of 21st Panzer. So 21st Panzer had been, we talked about it in the Ask Me Anything show yesterday, they had been a real spearhead unit for the German Panzers earlier in the war. They are kind of a second-rate division now, but they've still got shitloads of armoured vehicles, lots of self-propelled guns, Marders, Mark IVs, things like that. And they are between, if I go down to the map again, they're kind of over here. They are off between Saint-Pierre-sur-Dive and Caen. So they are within sort of 20 miles striking distance of the beaches. Now, I'm not going to do the full story of these counterattacks the Germans made. Read Normandy 44 by James Holland and other books. But basically, 21st Panzer is hampered by the uncertainty of the German command structure on D-Day. General Feuchtinger, the commander of the division, is in Paris. Is it his responsibility? Does it come under Army Group B? The usual thing about moving the panzers. Now, these panzers, the elements nearer to the invasion beach were fully aware of the invasion happening. They'd seen the C-47s and Halifaxes and other aircraft bringing over the British Airborne. They'd seen the fleet gather. They got information from the coastal positions, like the Grand Bunker at Ouistreham, all that kind of stuff. But they are not moved as swiftly as they could have been towards the beaches. But the delay, in a way, benefited the Germans, because by the time the 21st Panzer do start moving, and they're not moving as a complete division, it's bits of regiments moving. Colonel Hans von Luck is a famous 21st Panzer commander. Is they have identified, the Germans, a gap between what we would call Juno and Sword, but they, of course, didn't know the names for that. And this gap is this, part of it is where we are now. But there is another gap over to our east, nearer the other side of Sword Beach, near Lyon-sur-Mer. And it's through these fields that elements of 21st Panzer pushed towards the beach on D-Day. Now, because they moved late, because there's loads of Allied aircraft in the sky, but more importantly, by the time they move towards the beaches, the tank units are ashore. So on Juno Beach, you've got elements of 1st Hussars, you've got anti-tank regiments, you've got artillery units there with 25-pounders, sextons, self-propelled guns. The same kind of thing is happening on Saw Beach. 13th, 18th Hussars. I've got a show coming up with Andrew May about the 13th, 18th Hussars on Saw Beach, and in the early stages of the Normandy campaign. They came up a little bit in Stephen Fisher's show about Saw Beach a couple of days ago. I haven't got a dedicated show about just 22nd Dragoons. What's interesting about 22nd Dragoons is the book by, and I forget the name of the guy, is Ian something or other, who wrote a book. Ian Carmichael wrote a book about 22nd Dragoons. One of his troop officers was Ian Carmichael. Now, if you're a Brit of a certain age, you may remember Ian Carmichael. He was a famous actor. He was in Private's Progress. He kind of played the silly, posh, upper-class twit in various kind of Ealing comedies and stuff after all. Ian Carmichael, very famous at that time, not so much now, but he was one of the troop officers in 22nd Dragoons, I believe. I'm going off my wonky memory here. Yeah, Feutinger was visiting his girlfriend or mistress or whatever you want to label it. So I'm not going to talk in detail about what happened here, but read Normandy 44 by James Holland, and it will talk about these various German columns of tanks pushing towards the beach and then basically getting smashed, most of them, by Allied tanks, 22nd Dragoons, 13th, 18th Hussars, Canadian troops, etc., etc. There's a nice few pages in James Holland's book about that. And the German counterattack ended up not being very effective, thankfully. However, had it been a little bit earlier, had it been maybe when the Allies are still establishing a beachhead, the potential of the German tanks getting towards the gap between the beaches is, I'm not going to say it's going to cause D-Day to fail, because I don't believe D-Day had much chance of failing, but it could cause problems. Which brings us to the Commandos. You've been thinking, we've been live streaming for 7 minutes now. He said this is Commandos. Why is he not talking about Commando? This is why it's essential to have the Commandos linking the two beaches, to start establishing, if nothing else, a sense of the picture, because that's what Commandos are very good at. They're good assault troops, but they're also good at scouting, reconnaissance, moving swiftly, understanding what's happening. So the Royal Marine Commandos, so 48 Royal Marine Commando landing on the, and 47 and 45 and 46, their job on D-Day is to plug the gaps between the beaches. So all they're ahead of us. There are Commandos moving easterly from Juno Beach, and they're moving westerly from Sword Beach. They're linking up those two invasion sectors. They're clearing the houses. They're checking things out. They're looking at the suitability of roads. They're looking for what minefields there may be, all that kind of stuff there. And, of course, they're engaging the enemy. So that when the tank units come ashore later on, when the artillery units come ashore and start reinforcing the beachhead, the Commandos have done a really good job of just getting a lay of the land. And for me, the Commandos, except for the famous Bill Millin Piper story that I talked about, hi Ian, earlier in the earlier show, the Commandos' job of linking those beaches is really, really overlooked. We talk about the airborne, we talk about the 82nd and 101st over in the west, we talk about the 6th Airborne over on that high ground over there, but we don't talk about the Commandos enough, because the Army Commandos are very young. They've only been around for 4 years by 1944. The Royal Marines have been around a long time, but not so much the Commandos, because they're small units, sort of seen as being kind of special and new, and the stuffy old commanders maybe don't really appreciate the benefit of the commandos. So I think they have been given short shrift in the histories about D-Day and what they did, which is basically, say, linking up these beaches. So I urge people watching this to read more about the Commandos, read about the Royal Marine Commandos, read what they did. The Commandos taking Port-en-Bessin, for example, is an amazing story. And say these Commandos are doing a vital job in addition to the armor. But this, I'll just sweep round again one more time. You've got these open fields, and that's what we're looking at. Ian has been here with me on a tour, stopping here, and it's one of those locations where I stop on a bus tour. People think, why the hell is he stopping there? Why is he stopping at the side of the road when there's seemingly nothing on? But it's because of this. This is the open ground that the German counterattack could have made more progress before, for it not the work of the commandos and the tank units, etc., etc. Were there any veterans from Saint-Nazaire around here? There were a sprinkling, not many. There are a couple here and there. obviously a lot of the San Nazaire commandos got captured by the Germans, so they obviously can't take part. But there are a sprinkling. Some of them, Dieppe, San Nazaire connections. Commandos kind of move about a bit, some of them, but essentially not many veterans of San Nazaire here in Normandy. But that show you the ground again. And when you're here in Normandy, if you get to Normandy, try and appreciate these gaps between the beaches. Again, I said it in the second show. There's a sort of understanding that the beaches join up and the sectors join up, but not the landing sectors. And that job of linking those sectors, I'll say it once again, is the job of the Commandos. So here for the Commandos, Royal Marine Commandos, Army Commandos. It's far more than just pushing inland to Pegasus Bridge. That's the important job, but so is this. I'm going to switch off now. Maybe I'll do something else on my way home. I don't know. See which way I go. I will poodle my way back to Bayeux, and maybe I'll do something else. But it won't be commando related, I don't think. Well, maybe it will. Who knows? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But thanks for watching. Again, I do these live, so I'm at the peril of internet connection. It's not full high resolution. But I think hopefully you appreciate what I'm doing here to bring you these, my thoughts, my verbal meanderings. I pressed the wrong button on my phone there. Definitely don't ignore that last minute. I pressed the wrong button. I'm going now. See you later. Bye.